Imagine the vast expanse of the galaxy, a tapestry of stars woven across endless voids. For millennia, the Galactic Concordance had reigned supreme, an alliance of ancient, enlightened species who prided themselves on logic, precision, and unassailable intellect. The Vorathians, with their crystalline minds that processed data at speeds unimaginable to lesser beings. The Elithari, whose neural webs spanned entire moons, predicting outcomes centuries in advance. The Krell Dominion, masters of quantum calculus, who viewed emotion as a primitive flaw. Together they formed the Council of Ascended Minds, the unquestioned arbiters of galactic order. And then came humanity, the newcomers. Upstarts, a species barely a blip on the cosmic timeline, still clinging to their single blue world, still arguing over borders and resources while the rest of the galaxy had long transcended such barbarity. When Earth petitioned for membership in the Concordance, the Council barely suppressed their amusement. The Vorathian High Thinker, Thalvorn, scanned the human delegation's presentation and declared, in tones as cold as vacuum, "These creatures rely on intuition, on guesswork. Their strategies are chaos dressed as creativity. They will dilute our perfection." The Elithari Oracle, Lyriel, whose predictions had never failed, added softly, "Their minds are noisy, fragmented. They cannot match our unity." The vote was swift. Humanity was granted observer status, barely a seat at the table, more a curiosity than a participant, no voting rights. No access to core technologies, and certainly no influence over the great strategic simulations that decided wars, trade routes, and the fates of lesser systems. But the galaxy was changing. A shadow had fallen across the rimward sectors. The Swarm Reavers, a hive-mind collective of biomechanical horrors that devoured worlds and spat out silence. Species after species fell. The Council deployed their finest fleets, ran their flawless simulations, and watched as entire armadas vanished into the maw. The simulations predicted victory in 3 cycles, then 2, then 1. Yet the Reavers advanced, adapting faster than any model could account for. Desperation crept into the crystalline halls of the Concordant Spire on Nexus Prime. The Council convened an emergency session. Voices rose in measured panic. "We must reinforce the predictive algorithms," insisted Thalvorn. "Our models are perfect," countered Lyrael. "The variables must be incomplete." It was then that a junior Elithari analyst, young and unburdened by centuries of certainty, spoke up. "There is one species we have not fully integrated into the simulations. The humans. Their delegation has submitted unconventional tactical proposals. Unorthodox, yes, but persistent." The chamber fell silent. Then laughter rippled through the neural links. Cold, crystalline laughter. "Human minds?" Thalvorn scoffed. "They suggest flanking maneuvers based on historical battles from their pre-space era. They speak of bluffing, of misdirection, of accepting calculated losses for greater gains. Primitive gamesmanship. We have no need for such improvisation." Yet the Reavers breached the outer defenses of the core systems. A dozen worlds burned. The Council's perfect plans crumbled like brittle code. In the observation gallery, far from the central dais, sat Dr. Elena Voss, Earth's lead strategist. A woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with the quiet intensity of someone who had spent decades studying patterns in chaos. She had listened to the Council's dismissals for months. She had watched their simulations fail again and again, and she had waited. When the session adjourned in disarray, she approached the junior analyst who had spoken. "You saw it," Elena said quietly. "The gap in your models." The Elithari hesitated, then nodded. "The Reavers do not follow logic as we define it. They evolve in real time, exploiting every predictability. Your species seems to thrive in unpredictability." Elena smiled thinly. "We call it adaptability. Come with me. I need access to your tactical archives." What followed was unprecedented. The Council, cornered, grudgingly allowed a single human liaison into the War Nexus, a sealed chamber where the greatest strategic minds of the galaxy converged on holographic battle maps spanning light years. Thalvorn watched with disdain as Elena entered, carrying nothing but a datapad and a battered paper notebook filled with handwritten notes. "You will observe only," he warned. "Do not interfere." Elena nodded politely. But as the session began, she began to speak, softly at first, then with growing conviction. "Your models assume the Reavers will always seek the optimal path," she said. "But what if they don't? What if they hunger for certainty? What if we give them exactly what they expect, and then change the game?" The council paused. Lyrael tilted her head. "Explain." Elena walked to the central holotable. With a few gestures, she overlaid old human military campaigns: Stalingrad, Midway, Dien Bien Phu. These were victories won not by superior force, but by forcing the enemy into overcommitment. We let them think they had won the predictable battle, then struck where they never looked. Thalvorn's crystalline form shimmered with irritation. "You propose deception on a galactic scale? We do not lie." "We calculate." "Then calculate this," Elena replied. She adjusted the simulation parameters, introducing variables the council had dismissed as noise: human morale factors, improvised engineering, the willingness to sacrifice a pawn for a checkmate 10 moves ahead. The simulation ran. For the first time, the Reaver advance faltered. Not decisively, but enough to force a recalculation. The council stared. "Run it again," Lyrael whispered. Again and again. Each iteration showed incremental improvement. The humans' chaotic inputs, seemingly random, were unraveling the Reaver's adaptive certainty. Thalvorn's voice cracked for the first time in centuries. This defies our axioms." Elena met his gaze. "No, it defies your arrogance. You built models assuming every mind thinks like yours. But humans don't. We dream. We doubt, we improvise. And sometimes we win because the enemy never sees the irrational coming." Word spread through the spire like wildfire. The human liaison was no longer dismissed. She was consulted, then requested, then demanded. Days blurred into weeks. Elena worked tirelessly, blending the council's precision with humanity's wild creativity. She introduced feints that looked like retreats but masked counteroffensives. She suggested using derelict ships as bait, luring the Reavers into kill zones prepared by engineers who jury-rigged weapons from scrap. She even proposed psychological warfare, broadcasting false surrender signals laced with subliminal defiance, sowing confusion in the hive mind. The turning point came at the Battle of the Veil Nebula. The Reavers had massed their full strength, a writhing cloud of chitin and plasma, bearing down on the Concordance's last major stronghold, the fortress world of Etherion. The Council's fleets were arrayed in perfect formation, predictive shields at maximum. But Elena had one final suggestion. "Let them win the first engagement," she said. The chamber erupted in protest. "Insanity!" Thalvorn roared. "Trust me," Elena said simply. Reluctantly, the council agreed. The allied fleets withdrew in apparent disarray, leaving Etherion exposed. The Reavers surged forward, triumphant, their hive mind pulsing with certainty. Then the trap sprang. Human-piloted strike teams, small, fast, unpredictable, had infiltrated the Reaver swarm days earlier, planting quantum disruptors synced to a hidden timer. When the Reavers committed their core biomass to the assault, the disruptors fired, not in unison, but in staggered waves, each pulse exploiting a different frequency the hive had not yet adapted to. Chaos erupted within the swarm. Tendrils turned on each other, command signals fractured, and from the shadows, the human dreadnought Resolute, a single ship the Council had mocked as quaint, emerged, engines burning hot, weapons blazing in patterns no simulation had predicted. Its captain, a grizzled veteran named Marcus Hale, broadcast across open channels. "This is Captain Hale of the Terran Navy. You thought us primitive, you thought us weak, but we fight for something you forgot long ago. Each other. And we'll die before we let you take one more world." The Resolute dove into the heart of the swarm, shields flaring, torpedoes carving paths through the biomass. Behind it came waves of smaller craft, human ingenuity incarnate, darting like hornets, striking and vanishing. The Reavers faltered, then broke. When the dust cleared, the swarm was shattered. Remnants fled into the dark. In the war nexus, silence reigned. Thalvorn approached Elena slowly. His crystalline form flickered with something new, something like humility. "We underestimated you," he said. "Your minds are not noise. They are symphony in discord. Beautiful, terrifying." Elena looked out at the holographic map, now showing green zones where red had once spread. We don't claim perfection, she replied. We just refuse to lose, Lirel stepped forward. The Council will vote to grant Earth full membership. With advisory status on strategic matters, Helena smiled. We'll accept. But remember, the galaxy is vast and full of unknowns. Sometimes the answer isn't in the data, it's in the heart. As the session ended, the Council stood in quiet awe. For the first time, the ancient minds felt something they had long suppressed: wonder. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.